again, looking at your kind of CV and your career progression, I spotted something interesting. You went to Spirion for about close to a year. They've recently become a partner with Lepide, on obviously being the experts in data discovery and classification. Just curious, why you pivoted to sort of Spirion and then Immuta, which, from my understanding, it kind of again takes a similar journey with the data classification and looking at access and permissions and security around that. Was that by design that you kind of went that way?
No, I wouldn't say by design. I have to think how to answer this question. Let's, when I joined Spirion was right during COVID, and just to be frank, we were all struggling, right? Every business was trying to figure out how to keep the doors open as a startup. And they were really just moving into the cloud space. And so at the time, the company just had to make some major cuts to keep the doors open. As a security company, you've got 2 or 3 people there who can do the role. And it was also kind of, I think we were already having those discussions internally, like, do you really need a full-time CISO at your size, or should you be looking at CISO as a service type things where maybe you've got and so I think just size and scale wasn't a great fit, but COVID definitely had a huge impact on the trajectory.
Okay.
Going into Immuta was, I think, a little bit different because the customer base, most of our customers are, definitely Fortune 500, Department of Defense customers, public sector, and we have a rather huge adoption of our cloud platform, and that continues. And so I think because I was looking to make a change already, and Spirion was needing to make some financial changes at the time, Immuta came up, and it was funny because it was like, okay, another startup. Do I want to do this again? But the more I got into the mission and saw that they're cloud focusing, and we're dealing with Snowflake, Databricks, think of all the largest data stores, and our customers have some pretty intense requirements. And it has absolutely been what I thought it would be. But I also started looking, going, I had not ever thought to actually look at like who our customers are as part of a job interview, and realizing that for the challenge I was looking for, Immuta is working with some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. And so the drive for security, I felt like, was really going to be there. And it was, to the point where, the program I built, the autonomy has been just absolutely amazing. But I've also had easy support because I'm always fulfilling my customers' needs. And those expectations are incredibly high. And I think, for me, that really has made it more exciting. And because even though we're only like $30 million a year ish and 300 employees, we're servicing these large organizations. So we've done, we're on our 3rd SOC 2 Type 2. We just completed ISO 27001, 27701 certification. And I had a customer call, part of their annual risk review. And they started the call with, "You're our favorite vendor, and we love how you guys approach security and how transparent you are in the way you do things. And if that doesn't make you feel good and make you realize you made a good jump, I don't know what would." Because I think that was the one thing I didn't get early in my career, is where it was like, my job matters, my team's work matters, and the customers are giving us kudos for the things that we've accomplished. So that support, it's almost impossible for the executive team not to support us, right? So I think I joined in a great opportunity, right? We were getting tons of funding. The company was really changing, and COVID was behind us. And so we didn't, even though we had not 100%, but we were able to work remotely, but we were also able to not have those barriers that I think COVID brought all of us during that downturn.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like it's coming along nicely. I actually had a similar situation earlier this week on a demo call. Again, the client was asking, are you Cyber Essentials certified? Are you ISO 27001 certified? And, we're happy we can check all those boxes because, when it comes to the due diligence and, the risk profiling, it certainly makes things a lot easier. But obviously the funny thing is they're using our tech to try and get to that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of self-fulfilling in a way. That's all good.
Yeah, for sure. And then, Immuta for me was also, this is the second company that I've been at after Spirion that was truly cloud native, so 100% cloud. We have no data center operations. Our SaaS platform is 100% Kubernetes, so there were all these things that while they're not necessarily new, they were new to me. And I think, also what I'm seeing, because I've had the benefit of working with a lot of CISOs at these really large organizations and their chief data officers, is the other thing that continues to evolve in our careers and, in our line of work is the cloud is now really what we said it would be 10 years ago. Is even the largest financial institutions in the world have put policies in place where over the next few years, they have to have X percentage of production workloads moved to the cloud. And when you think about that, and then you've got all of us that are smaller companies going, yeah, this is kind of how the company started. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think that was one thing that was exciting for me was coming out of that executive consulting and, really back into hands-on somewhat, and even doing being more involved has been exciting because a lot of things we're working on are things that are just really coming into fruition, where we're seeing, like tooling for Kubernetes, is constantly evolving, and even our customers are not mature enough sometimes to manage that. And so as we evolve and as we're doing all these cutting edge things, it's like, to me, it's like a refresh. Like I've been doing this 25 years, but I feel like this is like, year 5 all over again, where I know what I'm doing, but there's just so much new stuff going on that, yeah. And so
when you're kind of cutting edge, when you're trying to explain to somebody and they're kind of like drawing a blank, especially on a demo or, there's an element of education in there as well, because like you said earlier, it's the way that you kind of explain something to somebody and then they get it and then, they kind of buy into it as well. So.
Yeah. And, and it was interesting, even like over the last couple of years, how much we would have to explain to auditors, how much they don't understand Kubernetes and how much cloud security and cloud vulnerability management is so completely different than on-prem, and how you manage those programs. That what I'm seeing is, the audit community still hasn't caught up, but even a lot of customers and folks who've been embedded in places for a long time, they're not getting exposed to these technologies. And I definitely think what I've seen, Immuta being the best case example, where completely cloud in every way, we've been able to pivot every year and make major changes in our security tooling or in our platforming in a very meaningful way that I couldn't have done at Wendy's. When I've got a data center and a backup data center where I've got to depreciate 5 years of hardware and 3 years for software, we've been able to be very nimble. Things like cloud security, especially. I was on stage probably at least 8 or if not 10 years ago with AWS talking about cloud security, and really just starting that to be a major focus of what my team does. Here I am 25 years in the last 3 years at Immuta, cloud security has been the biggest thing we've worked on. And what's changed for me is also, like, before I understood the technologies that I was securing very well. I can't do that anymore. And so it also has really pulled on me to trust those that are doing the work and to make sure I build those relationships, because the only way I can do that is I've got to trust but verify. It's a Navy or military term, trust but verify, and have a conversation with one of our SREs, and where it sounds like I'm second guessing what they're doing, but because we had the conversation up front about, hey, part of my job is to make sure we're doing this, and I am not an expert in Kubernetes. Like that whole world is I'm more of a Windows maybe 2000 kind of person, in Mac OS, but being able to not only have to depend on that team, but then having to pick tooling and processes that change. The cloud part, I think, really is becoming a reality for more people in very different ways, not just where your email is and where spam filtering is, but where now, and what we're protecting is, sensitive data, PII in major data lakes in the cloud and cloud shared. That, from a CISO and from a security leader and aspiring security leaders, is you got this whole new technology that you're going to have to understand somewhat. But I also think you're going to have to evolve your ability to have those discussions up and down continually so that you can ask the right questions. I probably love the days when there was a cable separating us from the world, right? And I knew that that box stops everything. And if we have a breach going on, I can just go pull the firewall from the internet, and you can't do that anymore. So it definitely has changed the way I think, and I think the way that we approach things. And data-centered security has become, back, I think, to the forefront. Like we talked about that as a trend maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Data-centric, put your controls as close to the data as possible. Well, now your data is everywhere. And we're addressing a small part of that with the data lakes and the things that, that are serving, but we have the same challenges everyone else does, where our endpoints now have become very, very dangerous. Again, we had mastered them for years, and now it's not about vulnerabilities and it's not about malware. It's Chat GPT and cloud services that have been democratized to the point where, even my mom can go on and write a letter on Chat GPT. That's pretty scary to me.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to just evolving complexity, both in the tech and the solutions to the problem. So I certainly admire your whole kind of approach, mentality, philosophy, whatever you want to call it, to the work that you do, your career, where you've always kind of leaned into the challenges, the challenging aspects and areas where you can learn more or stand to learn more, rather than some other form of immediate gratification. Do you have any parting advice to aspiring CISOs or ones already in the trenches?
I would say don't lose track of the professional connections that you're making, and maybe embrace those a little bit more. I think during COVID, we all got very home office centric. And I know I was skipping a few professional events. And what I've found is not only is it a little bit like therapy, but it's really helped me from a mental health standpoint to stop living in this small little world in my house and get out and interact with other professionals and share beyond technical problems. But hey, this is really getting me down professionally, and I'm struggling with how to handle this. So I would just definitely say, make sure you have lots of great connections in the community. They can be incredibly helpful and insightful in so many ways. And I truly know I would not be where I'm at today had I not had not only coworkers and colleagues, but external folks that I had met and kind of bonded with at various events help me throughout the years. Because, this is a tough role. It's mentally exhausting. And so I think beyond our skills, we also have to focus on ourselves and make sure that we're using the community to kind of keep us engaged.